Hello and welcome to Mustard Seed Mindset. Our message for you today is entitled, Who Are You? Have you ever asked yourself the question, Who am I? Take a second to think of 3 words to describe yourself. Who are you really? Now think about the words you just used to describe yourself. They're possibly words you've heard other people use to describe you. Often the ways we describe ourselves or even introduce ourselves may not have anything to do with us at all. And then we begin to realize that much of how we define ourselves is how other people have perceived us. What a false representation. Maybe people have always referred to you as kind or sweet. This is a great trait to have people to describe you as. The problem lies when you, due to a subconscious social pressure that you've developed, feel the need to be kind at all times. So instead of speaking from a place of truth, which might have required directness and opposition, you always think of the kindest response and not necessarily the honest one in order to not let the image that people have of you falter. This is a small example, but this social dutifulness can be quite dangerous to your well-being. Think of how many people have had nice, wonderful, heart-melting things to say about you. Now think of how many people have had awful, mean, harshly criticizing things to say about you. Not to mention some of these people are in both groups. People's words and viewpoints about you can change at the drop of a hat. That is why it's so important that we take some time to figure out who we are based on God's will for our persona, our purpose, our fulfillment, and our direction in life. Now think back to those 3 words you used to describe yourself. Maybe you chose words that are based on a temporal state of being and not based on principled truths. These are words that may describe how you are now, or sometimes, but not how you are all of the time. For example, fun, beautiful, rich, cool, sassy, mean, grumpy, smart, professional, clumsy, funny, etc. All of these words, while common ways to describe aspects of our personalities or dimensions of how we present ourselves to the world, they're not rooted in the depth of what defines our character. To define character, we would have to go much deeper into using words that describe the core of our being, instead of the outer parts that we show to the world. These words would include loving, gentle, patient, calm, sensitive, peaceful, creative, brave, integral, strong-willed, leader-oriented, joyful, steady, determined, a warrior spirit, a justice fighter, perseverant, etc. These are attributes that remain constant in you throughout the course of time, and you've likely had these characteristics even in your youth. As we grow into adulthood, we may drift further away from the core of who we are because of ego, pride, peer pressure, stubbornness, job identities we take on, or pain responses. But in the end, if we allow it, we'll circle back to what's at the core of who we are. And whenever there is discord between how we are behaving and how we know we are at the core of ourselves, that discord will be quite loud internally. For example, if you are an integral person who believes that it is important to always lead with honesty and do the right thing, even when no one is watching, then you will feel a great sense of guilt and discord if you were to tell even the smallest lie or do a half job at work. It is important that our actions, words, and behaviors align with the authenticity of who we know we are on the inside. Otherwise, you will live a life that is unfulfilling and will constantly be in a state of hypocrisy and internal opposition, which can lead to trouble, chaos, drama, depression, and self-abandonment. Once you've turned against yourself in this way, you will likely turn against others too in many ways due to the extreme unhappiness and distrust in yourself. In order to remain grounded and to become happier, ask God to help you discover your purpose and to bless you with the creativity to make your path possible, fruitful, and prosperous for yourself and many others to benefit from. You may start by asking God, why am I here? Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Every one of us has unique gifts that are to be used in unique and meaningful ways. There is no one quite like you, just as God has weaved this reminder into our very fingerprints. No one else has your fingerprints. Once you discover what your gifts are, you're that much closer to also realizing your true purpose and identity. When I told you to think of 3 words to describe yourself, maybe you couldn't even think of 3 words to describe yourself. That's understandable because we live in a world that defines us by what we do, who we know, what we have, and what others say about us. It's so easy to identify ourselves falsely as a result. We get lost in the temporary aspects of our lives and use them to define the totality and longevity of who we are. But the truth is, your past does not define you. Your job title can change. Your marital status does not define you. You are not your credit score. Your money can be here one day and gone the next, and the people in your life can fluctuate often. What are some of the unwavering character traits that God has given you? What are your core values? What are your gifts? How do you intend to use those gifts, and as a result, who all will benefit from them? Romans chapter 12 verses 6 through 8 says, "We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully." When you discover your gifts, pray and ask God to help you use them to the utmost and for the greater good of all, and not for selfish gain nor vain titles. I encourage you to think about how you want to define yourself from now on, and then reintroduce yourself to the world. After all, if you don't define who you are, everyone else will. I pray this word has blessed you. Thank you so much for watching.